is up, everyone? Welcome to Ginger Runner Live, episode number 371. Exciting show tonight because we get to have a guest on that we haven't had on, man, in a very long time. And
It's been a while.
It's been a while. We're honored to have her on. Amelia Boone is going to be joining us on the show tonight to chat about Run Rabbit Run, which is the 100-miler that she just finished this last weekend. Long journey leading up to this race, and the race itself, obviously very challenging. I feel like there's a lot of story that got Amelia to the start line and got her to the finish line. So I'm excited to catch up. There's going to be tons of stuff to cover in tonight's episode. Sit back, relax, everyone. Ginger Runner Live, episode 375 minus 4. 371 begins now.
Ginger Runner.
Yay! What is up, everybody? Welcome to Ginger Runner Live, episode number 371. Thank you for taking some time out of your busy Tuesdays to spend a little bit of it with us on tonight's show.
Darling Runner PT in the chat room has already pointed out the obvious. They are dressed for fall.
We knew this would come up. I didn't realize it would happen in the first 30 seconds. Kim and I are very aware of what we look like right now. I don't know what it was. We get ready in separate rooms.
Separate bedrooms.
Yeah, we have our separate bedrooms. That's where we get ready. And we came out and just kind of went, oh, no. Anyways, we live in the Northwest.
You just started a rumor that we have separate bedrooms.
I wish. No.
I think that happened.
We live in the Northwest. We had to dress up Northwesty because our guest tonight, I believe, originated in the Northwest, or at least lived a period of her life in the Northwest. We are going to be joined tonight by the one and only Amelia Boone. We can't wait to chat with her about her recent run at the Run Rabbit Run 100-miler. It is her first 100-mile finish as a race in and of itself. She's run 100 miles multiple times now, but in events such as Big's Backyard Ultra. So this was her first sanctioned 100-miler. And I'm excited to kind of dig into like why, how does that feel different as a runner? And we're going to talk a bit about her journey leading up to Run Rabbit Run, because it's certainly been a challenge, and she's just continued to push through. So it's going to be a really fun show tonight. We're very excited about that. We'll introduce Amelia here in just a second. But of course, we're also joined by the wonderful fellow Northwesterner, Kim. Hi.
You're really setting it up to be like we're not married.
We both have rings on. We both are married to each other. So that's, I realized even saying that, I was like, wait, people are going to think we're married to other people.
Hitting dingers now.
Man, hitting dingers. Let me introduce to my right, my beautiful wife, Kim. Hi.
Not your fellow Pacific Northwester.
I'd like to bring on Amelia at some point.
Kim Jashima Newberry here, as always. If you're new, welcome. Come say hi in the chat room. We are live. Amelia will be joining us in just a second. She's currently off screen laughing at how professional we are. If you have questions for Amelia, you can ask them in the chat room.
Yeah, we'll bring those questions in the live chat. We love the live interaction and stuff like that. We do have some individuals that we'd like to thank at the top of every Ginger Runner Live. It's because of them that we're able to do these shows. It is our Patreon crew. We also call it our GR crew. It's a community of individuals from around the world that are amazing athletes, and it is because of them that we are able to do our live shows, our reviews, our films, everything. If you would like to join the crew, all you got to do is go to patreon.com/thegingerrunner, and all tiers get access to our after show. For example, tonight we'll have Amelia on for our after show. There's also other cool perks, like we do a daily live stream every day. We sit down over a cup of coffee, talk about running, all that good stuff. So consider joining if you have not already. Two individuals in particular at that top tier go above and beyond, and we like to recognize them at the top of every Ginger Runner Live episode as well. Brian Sands and Rick Bjarnason. Brian is out of Iowa, truly inspirational runner, really fantastic dude and truly inspiring. And Rick is out of BC, British Columbia. Ultra runner himself, also a web designer, and they did the gingerrunner.com website, owner of a company called cheekymonkeymedia.ca. So check them out if you're looking for some web design or web maintenance type stuff. Big shout out to those two. Thank you so much for helping us do this. Now, coming to us all the way from Colorado, but with origins, I'd like to think in the Pacific Northwest, we'll find out, Amelia Boone.
Yay!
Hello!
You are right. You are right about the oranges in the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah.
Portland, Oregon.
Right?
Oregon. Born and raised through and through. So I really hope you guys are wearing Birkenstocks with socks on right now. To
Funny you should say that.
It's Amelia, it's worse than that. One of us has
No.
Birkenstocks with socks, and one of us is wearing Tom's slippers. So we got both the like California hipster and the Pacific Northwest hipster.
Oh my God, you guys are too Northwest to function.
I can't. I'm actually really mad at ourselves right now.
Yeah.
But I have to give a shout out to Portland as well. I was born in Portland, Emmanuel Hospital. Shout out to
So was I.
shout out to the hospital.
Shout out to the
Yeah.
hospital.
We're
was
live
mine.
right now in Emmanuel Hospital on all their screens in the waiting room. So shout out to everyone there. Okay, so you're in Colorado now. What was actually the impetus? Because you've lived in the Pacific Northwest, you've lived in California, now in Colorado. What sort of was that journey? What made you end up in Colorado now?
I that's where I hear runners go to like become really good runners. No, I'm joking.
There's very few talented runners in Colorado,
Yeah,
from what I hear.
yeah, no. Hasn't really worked out that well. No, so I was in the Bay Area there for Apple, and the Bay Area was great. But the only reason I was there was for my job. And I just wanted to place where I had a lot more friends and community. And so I looked at a few different options and think just really settled in Colorado. And was lucky enough for Apple to sign off on me to work fully remote. And that was in January of 2020.
Oh,
So
wow.
then, yeah. And so then like I moved actually during the pandemic in April of 2020. And so it hasn't really felt any different not being in an office because everybody has been remote. So it's been great.
Yeah, I mean the fact that you're able to work remotely but still have Colorado as your backyard, basically these the altitude, the peaks, and everything. I mean, being able to follow your training and stuff and seeing where you're getting up to, gorgeous backyard. I mean, you've been very fortunate in where you've lived to have such amazing backdrops. Have you always been a trail runner, or at least had that draw to the outdoors? Do you think growing up in the Northwest sort of burned that into you?
I mean, well, we'll skip over the fact that I lived in downtown Chicago for 6 years and in St. Louis for 4 years. So has not always been mountains and splendor, but I think just growing up in the Northwest, outdoors is a way of life and you just get used to it. And I think also, I mean, in Oregon, the Pacific Northwest, you get used to being out there when it's pouring rain at all times, when it's nasty. Like it's just, you just go outside because that's just what you do. So I think it is very natural. Colorado to me feels a lot like home, but with a lot less rain.
It's every time I see pictures from like Boulder and from Durango and from Colorado Springs, and there's some peaks and stuff that, especially recently, you look at them and go, that feels like the North Cascades, or that feels like the Teanaway. You know, there's some really amazing connections between the two regions, but we don't have altitude here. Clearly, you would think by how we were dressing that our brains would be at altitude. That joke made more sense in my brain. I do want to sort of talk a bit about, obviously, Amelia, you have been such an incredible advocate for so many things, and a really wonderful outspoken voice in a number of subjects that you deal with personally, disordered eating disorders, everything like that. But your journey as a runner and OCR and this really neat balance between the two, you have a really unique voice, because many of us in ultra running wouldn't have a connection to OCR or be familiar with a bit of that scene if it wasn't for athletes like you. And I think vice versa, you're a big name in OCR as well. I don't know how many of them would have such an open ability to see what's happening in the ultra scene. So people like you really are able to bridge that
in the gap.
Yeah. I'm curious, do you find yourself pulled often in either direction, or have you been able to sort of comfortably bridge that gap and find your joy in both sides of the sport, stuff like that? I want to talk a little bit about that before we dig into the training.
Yeah, I think initially when I was trying to balance both, when I was still very heavily into obstacle racing, I did really feel pulled. And I also had a lot of sponsors in the OCR space, so I felt more of an obligation to be in that realm. Now I think it's been a few years. I much more lean heavily into ultra running, though I still dabble into the OCR world. And I like where I'm at, because then now it's like I pick and choose races that I want to run versus what, my sponsors wanted me to run, what Spartan, the organization, wanted me to run. And so I'm like, okay, I'm going to go run some ultras, and then I'm going to go run a 24-hour obstacle race. But like I want to do the short or none of the short stuff, only the long stuff. And
Mm-hmm.
so I think I've reached that kind of point where I'm able to like pick and choose what brings me joy. Though, there's always weird FOMO about certain things that I'm like, oh, but I can't do it all. Like I'd like to be able to do it all, but I can't. You just physically can't. So
It's interesting you bring up just the idea of FOMO because, well, one thing that we talk a lot about on the show and with past guests, even recently, like Joe Gray, for example, and other athletes who have like where they find their joy the most. So like Joe really enjoys shorter distances that are hyper competitive. We have other athletes on the show that talk about, I love 100-mile distance because it's a personal challenge. And, it's not about the race as much as it is about the internal battle. And I love that you are identifying where you find your joy in racing, because I think that's a great lesson for anybody who's maybe either new to the sport or seasoned in the sport. What gives you joy? And so in this case, now just a couple days removed, we'll talk a lot about the specifics of the race. Do you still find joy in 100-mile distances?
Oh my God, absolutely. I do. It wasn't even, what's funny is I had a very, very, very rough first 30 to 40 miles, like absolutely horrific first 30 to 40 miles. And then I had an amazing next 60 plus miles. And I loved every single minute of it. And and I think that my goal in whatever I do is just to always be present in that moment. But it wasn't even, I finished some races and I'm like, I'm going to have to take a few days to figure out if I actually want to come back to that or like do that again. And no, I mean, the moment I was done, I was like, when's the next one? Like, I love this. So
That's awesome. That's really awesome.
But yeah.
We have live questions.
Yeah. I mean, I think this is a little bit off topic, but you're talking about joy.
Yeah.
And Nicole in the chat room asked, is Emmy the doggo in the room? Can you maybe talk a little bit about your passion for helping rescue and foster dogs?
Absolutely. Emmy is outside eating poop right now, actually, which is her favorite thing to do. I can see her through the window. So she's not in the room. I was going to try and get her on here. But yes, so outside of ultra running, the dog, Emmy is my pup. And then I generally have at least one or two fosters. I don't right now. I'm getting one tomorrow because I just got back from racing. But I think like what I found, I think everybody needs purpose in life, and during the pandemic, especially, I think I was struggling to find purpose in some ways, just because everyone is so isolated and there weren't races and we were all working remotely. And I really just kind of fell into this fostering thing, and it's just giving me so much purpose. And just to have the dogs, it keeps me out of my own head in a lot of ways. And it's been great and I love it.
As parents of a rescue who happens to be snoring behind us, we value everything that you do as a foster because for those who don't know, dogs that are rescues need homes temporarily so they can kind of get used to humans, but they also need care. And so Amelia, how many dogs have you fostered at this point, do you think?
Close to 30.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And most have found homes?
All have found homes. Yeah. A couple have been returned to me. We've had one that came back to me 4 times before he got his permanent home. But yeah, they've all, and they've various health problems, and one almost died of parvo, but so it's tough. I cry every time one leaves.
It's been a journey with Gus. Like Gus for sure has been a journey, but it's been one of the rewarding ones, I think. We often talk about how lucky we are to have found him and for him to have found us.
But I love that you share so much of your fostering experience online, because I genuinely can feel your joy and your purpose out of your post. And I think it's really cool. And 2, I think it might help open people's eyes up to there's all these dogs that do need homes and not necessarily go to a store and try and buy one.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I do want to start kind of digging into preparation for Run Rabbit Run and a bit of your story with Ultra in general. So this was a surprise to me. You mentioned this being your first 100-mile race, like sanctioned 100-mile distance race, though it is not your first time running 100 miles. Is that what is it about finishing 100 miles at Backyard that doesn't feel like a 100-mile race to you?
Right.
Besides just the buckle, like obviously that's a difference, but what is it
What
mentally about that distance and the race?
it's interesting because Bigs is one of those, and I've done Bigs twice, and I ran over 100 miles both times, but it is the only race where you can say, I only ran 137 miles because Courtney ran 300 miles. So, and like technically everybody DNFs except for the one winner. And so I think there's just something about it. Like you don't walk away from Bigs feeling good about yourself unless you are the person that was the last person standing. And so and there's also just that weird constraint of having to stop every hour on the hour,
True.
which is not, how 100-mile goes. And in some ways that's a lot harder, I found, because I know the second year that I ran Bigs, had I had like 10 more minutes to pull myself together, like in between, I probably could have done it, because at a regular ultra, you could spend 40, 50 minutes in an aid station if you needed to pull yourself together. You can't do that at Bigs. You're on their clock. So it was a weird time. I remember when I hit 24 hours and everyone was like, woo, you hit 100 miles. I'm like, does this count? I don't know. Like, I'm proud of it, but it just doesn't feel the same, I guess, in some ways. But I mean, I'm still super proud of them, but this running a sanctioned 100-miler just feels different, I believe. So
It's a different format, obviously, clearly a different format. So is there something about that distance that drew you? Was it because, yes, you've done these huge efforts at Bigs, but it wasn't like a sanctioned 100? Was there a draw to this specific race for you? Let's sort of get your personal connection to Run Rabbit Run.
Well, I mean, so to be fair, no offense to Run Rabbit Run, there was nothing special about. I'll take you all back a little bit. Is that I have had like so many people an amazing obsession with hard rock for a very long time. I love mountains. I love long days in the mountains, and I'm like that. Everybody has a bucket list race, and I'm like that is a bucket list race for me. Need a qualifier, which is always a mountain 100. And actually, I was signed up for Bighorn in June, and that was what I was going to run because I really wanted to get my qualifier to then get into the lottery, which then you'll have like a 0.2% chance of ever getting into the race. One of those wonderful things. And then I went through my entire training block for Bighorn. I had, 12 weeks of great training. And it was it was 2 weeks out from the race. And I had rolled my ankle the other day, and I was noticing my ankle was just like not getting better. I was like, what is going on? And I actually found out, so 2 weeks out, I had a calcaneal stress fracture and I tore my plantar. And so this was end of May. Yeah. End of May. And I was like, well, all right, that sucks. You're out of and I also at that point was like, okay, well now I'm done with hundreds for the year, because I was just doing the math in my head. I was like, there's no way I'm going to be able to get back for another one. But I remember I returned to run mid-July. I went to Crew Hard Rock, and my run was 1.5 miles that day. I remember when they went to go run 100 miles through the mountains, and I ran 1.5 miles around the street. I was like, woo, return to run. And David, my coach, said, I was like, if my return to run goes well and I have no setbacks, is there a possibility I could do a September 100? Because I saw that there were a few qualifiers in September. And he was like, I'm not going to make any promises, but maybe. So I had about less than 8 weeks of running before Run Rabbit Run.
Wow.
So it was a little bit non-traditional, but I was like, I really want to give this a go. And just because of the fact that I was so ready for Bighorn, and then just having that pulled out of the right beforehand, and then feeling all of the emotions that go through that. And I was like, let's just try it. I have no idea how this is going to go. So
It's Now hearing sort of that story with the you say stress fracture and pulling,
Mhm.
jeez, uh,
Yeah, I tore my plantar.
and your
Yeah,
planner, which
yeah,
that's pain. Obviously, it's not
yeah,
like, oh, I can't really walk on this. It's like, no, I can't weight bear or anything.
yeah.
You're no stranger to injury. Obviously, in the last few
Right.
years, you've been very outspoken with the journey that you've taken to even get to where you are today. When that diagnosis happened right before Bighorn, was it, with the experience that you have over the last 5 years or so, was it did it feel like the end of the road for this year, or were you like, no, I know my body well enough, I know where I can be in another 2 months? Like, where was the mindset for you?
I think it was a mix of both. A lot of it was shame because a lot of it was frustration and shame, being like, look, I knew I had stress fracture after stress fracture because of I wasn't fueling myself properly. And then to get hit with a stress fracture now, after I had been like 2 years in recovery and 2 years like stress fracture free, and I thought I was like done with that. And it was just this like, well, what am I doing wrong? And like it's just feeling kind of like a lot of internal shame.
Mhm.
And also just knowing how long and hard it's been for me to get back from stress fracture. So I thought my year was done, at least until, November, maybe December. Uh, but what I've learned is that maybe it hasn't stopped me from getting stress fractures yet, but I healed in record time. Like
Mm.
I had 4 weeks off of running and I was back. Whereas it used to take me, 8 to 12 weeks to get back there. So that was a good lesson.
Yeah.
So that actually really, I think it surprised me. It surprised everyone around me. It surprised my doctors how quickly I healed. So yeah, I did not expect to be in this position right now at all.
I mean, it's amazing, and it's a
Yeah.
testament to your just how the last few years have sort of developed for you as well. With injury, I remember the first time we met, it was on the sidelines of Western States, and you were
Mm-hmm.
in crutches,
Crutches.
and it was one of
Mhm.
those like, oh man, Amelia, when are you going to crush this? And you're like, whenever I can. Like, I want to run states someday, but I can't do it in crutches. And it's so cool to now be. What year was that? Would that have been 2016?
2016 is
Would have
5
been
years ago,
2016, 5 years ago.
because that was the first 100 I was supposed to run, and I have not been able to get to a start line of 100 since until now.
I think that's what is so special about your journey. And I can only imagine what it's like for you to now have had that experience of these 5 years and then being able to show up to a start line healthy. Those
Mhm.
8 weeks leading up to Run Rabbit Run, what was that progression like? Because you're coming off of an injury, your
Yeah.
body's working. What was it like to get to the start line?
I mean, I think it was actually just kind of surreal. I kept waiting for the other shoe to drop. Like I
Right.
kept
Mm-hmm.
waiting to be like, this isn't something's gonna happen. Something always happens. And
Mm.
I was like, no. But it was a very different training block for me. It was a lot of hiking. I was doing a lot of 14ers this summer and just like a lot of time on feet versus just straight like running. Um, and just to try and keep the impact down, I think. And it actually like it worked because you think about it, hundreds are a lot of hiking. So it worked pretty well. I was running well miles at like mile 90 of Run Rabbit. And like that, I was like, I had my legs on me still. So, which was I'm like, oh, maybe this works. Doesn't have to be pure running all the time.
Was there a moment leading into Run Rabbit? Like, was there a day that you went, holy shit, like, I get to start this. I can't believe it. Like that
I
journey.
I think it was I think it was probably at like 11:59 a.m. because I was convinced. I'm serious. I was super convinced the entire time that like something was gonna happen, like
Wow.
right up to us taking off. Yeah.
It's amazing to be able to be able to hear this story and know your journey, and that's amazing. We do have some live questions. Maybe get to some of
Yeah.
those, and then we'll start diving into the actual specifics of the
Mm.
race.
Yeah, there's just a comment from ATB2 in the chat. They said, just a comment. Thank you, Amelia, for being such a strong, independent female role model. It takes major guts to put your personal demons out in public spaces, and it helps so many others in turn. And then the question from Luigi asks, where do you rank this accomplishment, finishing the official sanctioned 100 miler to your ultra OCR distance accomplishments?
Oh, yeah, that's a good question. I don't, I think I'm proud of this one in a different way because because by mile 5, I was actually, like, thinking about dropping out. And then the fact that I hung on for 95 miles after that, or 100 miles after that, it was 105 miles. Um, so I think for me, this is just kind of like it was one of those things that I did fully for myself. And so I think it has a different feeling and character, than like winning a world championship in OCR, which is great and fanfare, but like here it's like the results, like, fine, yeah, I did great, but like it's not it was more personal satisfaction, which
Mm.
I'm just like is what is key to me, I think.
So I do want to start digging into those first few miles, because you've talked about it on social media. You talked about it here
Yeah.
tonight, and I'm curious, like, what the hell happened? So you're at the start line of your first 100, like, oh my God, my body's working. This is
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
And then what
Well,
happened?
so Run Rabbit, you go straight up a ski slope,
Were
like
you,
for the
by the way,
first.
sorry, were you a hare or a tortoise?
I was a
Like,
hare.
okay, you
I
were a
was a
hare.
hare. I tried to convince David to let me be a tortoise because I didn't want to start at noon because everybody knows I'm a morning person, and like starting at noon is like 2/3 of the way through my day. But no, so yes, I started at noon as a
Okay.
hare, and I think by like mile 5, you get to the top of Mount Werner, which is like the high point of the course. And all of a sudden, I just did not start to feel good. Like I started to feel dizzy. I just like something was off. I wasn't breathing well. Like my ears kept popping and my stomach was turning. I was like, I am 5 miles into this race. And so I like kind of slowed down and people started like running by me. And I couldn't keep it together. I was just kind of weird and dizzy and out of it. And my heart rate was spiking and I had no idea. And I was like, what is going on? And it just stayed that way. And I couldn't figure it out. And as I was going down to like Fish Creek Falls, I think I was running, which is probably like 15 miles in. Pretty sure of the hares, I was like in like the bottom 5 people. Like I was just at the very end. Like I was pulling up the rear and I was afraid I wasn't going to make cutoffs at that point.
Mm.
Um, and as I was climbing out of Fish Creek Falls, I I started to get auras. So I get migraines. And generally I just get very bad auras. Like I can't see anything. It's just a television show of fuzz in front of my face. And then my tongue goes numb, my face goes numb, my arms go numb, my hands go numb. And then I'm just like a mess. And then I'm puking and then like, a headache and everything. So I started getting auras at about like mile 18, mile 20. I always carry migraine meds on me, but
Mm.
triptans, they're vasoconstrictors and they spike your heart rate. So I took that and 200 milligrams of caffeine. And then, like, I can't move that fast because my heart rate's already spiked from anything. I can't see. I kept tripping because I couldn't see. So I kept falling, which, if anybody's seen pictures of the race, I'm just like a bloody mess. Um, and I was like pretty confident that once I got to the next aid station, I was going to have to drop just because like I've had migraines my entire life. I've
Mhm.
never gotten one during a race. So I normally have to like curl up in a ball in bed for like 8 or 10 hours to get over it. Um, but I kind of reminded myself, like, okay, it's like the worst thing that can ever happen to you right now. But like, who knows? Just keep walking and maybe it will get better. And so the sun was starting to set. To like ward off the auras, was trying to keep my eyes closed as much as possible, which is not a good idea when you're trying to like run through the woods. Um, but eventually, I think it took by like mile 35 or something, like it started to go away. And like I went through the entire numbness and like the nausea. But I don't, I, it just, like, it got better. And,
Mm.
but I had really dug myself into a hole at that point because
Right.
I was, like,
Mhm.
moving very, very slowly. And at this point, I was checking my watch to see if I was gonna make cutoff still. Um, but so, yeah, that was the first part of the race.
I mean, that sounds like that, Amelia, that sounds like a terrible low. I mean, inevitably people are going to hit low spots in a 100-miler. I think everyone is prepared for that. You train for it, all that sort of stuff.
You kind of have an idea of what it might feel like or what it might be.
Yeah.
Because you've either raced before long distances or you trained. So you're like, I know at mile 60, this is what happens, or mile 80, I just got to grind through it. But this happening so early in the race is such, especially when you start to know what's happening and you know how migraines affect your body and stuff like that.
Yeah.
How did you manage? I don't know. It might be tough to put into words, but just like, how did you manage to not only stay moving forward through that, but then trust that maybe you'd find another side to it? Like, how did you find that switch?
Yeah, I mean, I'm no stranger to long events, which is like yes, I haven't run a sanctioned 100, but I also know that I've done multiple 24-hour obstacle races. I've done adventure races that have taken 48, 72 hours. So I do know a lot can change, and I do know that I, in general, tend to hit low points early in races, and then I get stronger as they go on. But I've never experienced this with a migraine. So I was just like, well, Amelia, you paid all this money, you did all this training. Like, what's the worst that's going to happen if you just keep going, and like, eventually, if it gets to an eventual point that it's really awful, then maybe you'll stop. I remember texting David, my coach, and just being like, I have a migraine. I don't know what to do. I can't see. And then and then I turned my phone off again.
Hey man, here's what's going on. Bye.
Then I left him to worry for the next however many hours.
I can't get a hold of Amelia. Now what do I do? I mean, did they send out a search party? Like,
was he just like, woohoo?
Was he like,
woohoo?
He was like, you're awesome.
Believe. I hope.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think it's just this stubbornness in me, and that I was like, I'm not going to let this take me down. Just because I know that like they can clear up in a few hours. And a race is very, very long. So, and yeah, I mean, the sun went down and the migraine disappeared, and I felt like a completely different person. So.
Wow. And there's great chatter here in the chat. By the way, the chat's been really awesome tonight. Like when you mentioned Chicago early on, there was a whole like 20 minutes long of people like, Chicago's great, and talking about pizza and all that. So we do have some good Midwesterners here. We appreciate you.
Oh, I shouldn't tell my opinions on deep dish then.
Well, we all agree that it's perfect. Okay, so Meredith here in the chat says, yikes, a triptan along with caffeine is no joke. And she says the first part of the race, or she puts in quotes, the first part of the race, quotes, other than that, Mrs. Lincoln, how was the play? Which I think is a great quote. Appreciate that. And yeah, if we get any more questions here, Kim will pull them aside and we'll get to those during the chat. But Meredith says, caffeine helps my migraines, but back when I took triptans, it gave me heart palpitations. No bueno. Yeah, did you have any heart issues or anything like that? Like, did you have to stay super focused on what was going on with the body at that point?
Yeah, I mean, I think that because I was like, okay, well, I know that everything's going to jack my heart rate up. So that's why I really had to slow down, because if I tried to run, like it was not good. So yeah. But it's also really frustrating to not be able to run for something that's like not injury related. When you have like when you have like a side stitch or something and you're like, what the, and like, I just want to fucking run right now. Like, I'm fine, but you can't. It was kind of like that frustration. And sometimes I think when I get angry, then it's actually a better motivator. Because I was like, God damn it, you fucking migraine, you are not taking me down.
Who else did we have? We've had a guest on recently that mentioned like anger was a fuel for their ultra.
Oh yeah, because we were talking about like, running happy and like how like
yeah, and they were,
and they're just like, I love running like.
Yeah, angry. It was angry, and I was like, man, I think I like this.
Yeah.
Joe, I can't remember.
Maybe
actually.
It was Joseph Gray. It could have been Joseph Gray.
I can't remember who it was.
Well, because I did that later on too when my crew missed me at an aid station. It's okay, crew, if you're listening.
Yeah, It might have been because I
Yeah.
think what you're mentioning is something that happened to her during Hard Rock where her crew
Yeah,
didn't
it
show
might
up
have been her.
and she ran angry. So yeah, sorry,
Yeah.
continue. So your crew, you
No,
missed your
yeah.
crew.
So my crew fell asleep in the back of the car, and did not, and it was freezing in the middle of the night. This was like mile 60, no, 55, something. And I had no warm clothes, and I ran around the parking lot forever trying to find them and like get warm clothes. And finally I was like, I fucking have to keep going. I wasted like 30 minutes running around looking. And then I just like hauled up the next climb because one, I was so cold, so I had to keep moving. And two, I was just pissed. I was so pissed. And I was just like, motherfuckers, and just like climbing. So I don't know, maybe, that kind of stuff is a good motivator.
This just makes me think like your crew is listening and they're going to go,
Let's bring them on.
Amelia, your next race, there's going to be something that they have planned that's going to make you mad. You're not going to know about it, but you're going to be so pissed and they'll be just like, perfect. It's all going according to plan.
Yeah, my next one is World's Toughest Mudder. They'll be like, oh, your wetsuit's missing. Oopsie.
Oh, fuck, I'm so pissed. Amelia Boone with the win. She came out of nowhere. 3.5-minute miles for the last 10 miles. I do want to find out about this last, because you had such a rough first 30, 40 miles. The fact that you're able to finish with such bliss is a rarity, really, in ultra running. Like the last 60 or 70 miles of 100 are usually the toughest, things you really have to grind it out. So for you, what was that like to get to this part of a race, a distance that you hadn't run as a sanctioned 100, and to feel so good? What was that like?
It was amazing. I felt like I was running 6-minute miles, and I'm sure I was probably running like 12-minute miles. But I just felt so good. And I think I was actually thinking about it. It's probably better to do it this way than in reverse, because most people do it in reverse. You have a great, first half, and then the second half is just like a slog. Well, I think because I was moving so slowly in the beginning, I still had my legs on me. And so I passed probably like 200 people in the last like 40 miles. And I would just like run by and be like, how's it going, guys? How's it going? And I think everybody wanted to kill me because I was like moving so well. So
they were running on anger as well. Yeah. It's like, I'm so mad at her.
Yeah.
I know. I mean, and I passed 4 women in the last 20 miles, and like 4 other hair women and whatnot. And so, yeah, I actually think it was the perfect kind of race because I got to experience that. I'm sure the next time when I experience the reverse, I'm going to be like, God damn it, this is awful.
Do you get emotional when you race? So like for these, were these last few miles special? Were you able to enjoy them beyond just I feel great and this is bliss? Like, were you able to sort of take in the fact that this was your first 100 and you were getting it done?
So I hit the last aid station, which was at mile 99. And I still had 6 more miles to go, which I was angry about. But I decided so then you run straight down a fire road. And when you're running straight down a fire road after like 100 miles and your quads are just like, no. So I had to like slow down and walk because I thought my femurs were breaking in half. And I decided to take my phone off the airplane mode to then text my crew and David and Megan and let them know I was coming to the finish line. And all of a sudden, like 50 texts pop up and they all go, are you okay? Are you okay? Are you okay?
Oh, shoot.
I'm getting like pictures of puppies and like, we love you. We're so proud of you. Like, it's okay that you dropped. And I was like, what? And so then I'm sitting there like texting people the last few miles of the race, being like, I didn't drop because apparently the tracker showed that I dropped at like mile 70.
Oh no.
So everybody, like my crew thought I dropped, David and Megan thought I dropped, everybody had. So the last few miles, it was me trying to correct people and be like, no, come back to the finish. I'm coming down now.
Yeah, like, please don't leave me. I still need you. Please don't leave. Oh my God. Did
So
the
it was
tracker
kinda
say
hilarious.
like did not finish, or was
Yeah,
it just
the
like the tracker stopped working?
No, the tracker said DNF
Oh
next to my name.
Oh,
Yeah.
no.
So it was funny because, and then when people were like, "Oh shit, she's still going," then it was great. But I was not expecting to like be texting people the last few miles of my race, letting them know that I was actually still running.
still out there.
Yeah, I think I saw your Instagram stories while you were finishing
Right,
up, and
right.
I was like, I didn't have the context of it, but it was clearly you like, hey, I'm still out here, everybody. People keep texting like, I'm not DNFing, I'm like still going. In my mind, I'm going, oh, I hope this isn't like a controversy or something where
Oh, yeah.
you got to an aid station, you're like, I quit, and someone just like tweeted Amelia quit,
Amelia
but
Oh,
like
yeah.
you didn't. So I'm glad it all worked out and you were able to get this thing done.
Yeah.
What did it feel like to cross the finish line and hold an actual buckle?
I was so great. And then I was like, what do I do with this buckle? I don't wear pants. Um, no, I seriously then started really thinking about buckles and why we do buckles. But that's a conversation for another day. But no, I mean, I felt so great crossing the finish line. And then I sat down, and then it was like my body, like 10 minutes later, my body just like shut down.
Mhm.
I was like, I need to puke everywhere and I can't walk and everything hurts and I'm dying. Like that was pretty much how it went. So, there's
Oh,
Emmy. She's saying hi.
Emmy.
We have dog presence. I repeat,
Come on, Emmy.
we have dog presence.
No, you can't come close to me. Your mouth smells like poop. Okay,
Oh.
go that way.
I think of all the things we're thankful for with Gus. It's one of them primarily.
He's not into poop.
He's not into poop.
Oh, that's so nice. She is. I've tried everything to break her of the poop habit, and it's not working. Not working. She's a great dog, except for the poop.
And on that note, no, it's one of those points in the conversation where I'm like, I definitely want to talk about dogs. I also want to talk about your finish, Amelia, but we are getting towards the end of our Ginger Runner Live episode. We may have done this with you in the past on the show, but I quickly realized I don't remember if we have done a Quickie question quiz with Amelia.
Vivian did list the other, I think, 3 times we've had Amelia on.
I think I did one with Mako. Do you guys remember the time when I crashed Mako's episode? I think. And
Yes. Also, thank you for being such a good sport.
I miss that guy. Anyway,
No kidding.
yeah.
I actually, Mako, if you're watching, where are you? Are you still out on the Run Rabbit Run course? Did you DNF? We don't know. We miss Mako. He's
I know.
totally MIA.
Hey, somebody tweeted about the Mako show today.
I love the Mako show.
I know. It is like the greatest thing that happened for a very short bit.
I do think we will do a Quickie question quiz with just you, Amelia, because if we have done it in the past, it's been so long. Again, just to reiterate or to remind you, is that it's a very simple quiz. It is a rapid fire series of simple questions. Just answer with the first thing that comes to your head. When you are ready, give me the thumbs up and we'll just rip through.
Let's go.
Here we go. What was your very first race?
Oh my God, the Wisconsin half marathon.
That's a doozy of a first.
I know.
A half marathon, like a lot of people are like, I ran a mile in 7th grade or whatever, but I'm like, hell yeah, go for the halfie.
First and only road marathon I've ever done. Or road race. First and only road race I've ever done.
Damn. Favorite place to run currently?
Centennial Cone.
The question is road or trails, this next one, but I'm going to change it to OCR or trails.
Trail.
Bucket list race.
Hard Rock.
Favorite running movie?
I don't know. I actually really don't know. I keep wanting to say Cool Running.
That's what I am dying for someone to answer.
Kim,
I say it all the time.
all the time for years. 371 episodes.
Whenever you read the question, all that comes to my brain is like Cool
Running.
Runnings. Like, it's not.
You're like, it's not about that.
We're
not
keeping
about
it. It's sold. That is now Amelia's. She is the first.
Yes. I'm
Guilty-
the first, really? Damn. Okay.
Yeah, like Kim.
I'm like, somebody's gonna say
This
it.
has been
Somebody's
a
gonna say
joke
it.
for Kim for like the whole time. Just please, someone say Cool Runnings. And the fact you just did might have just made Kim's night.
I actually just don't know any other running movies that are coming to my brain.
Well, that was the correct answer.
Yeah.
No one's gotten it right except for
There
you.
we go.
So.
Yay! Woo!
Guilty pleasure TV show.
Oh, Selling Sunset.
Oh my God. That is not what I expected. I was thinking like Law and Order or something.
No.
Is that too close to home?
I loved Law and Order growing up. Loved it. But that's not a guilty pleasure. Like guilty pleasures to me is like I'm watching what look like high price hookers trying to sell homes in LA. That's guilty pleasure.
As someone who spent a lot of time on Sunset, running down Sunset,
Looking like
looking
high-priced
like
hooker.
looking like everyone on that show. Yeah, it is a crazy freaking show. Favorite pre-race meal, or what did you eat before Run Rabbit Run? What was your like pre-race?
Pop-Tarts and peanut butter.
Hell yeah. Favorite post-race indulgence? So like what was the first thing you grabbed at the end of the race?
Okay, so this is weird, but Diet Coke, I love Diet Coke. I don't let myself have Diet Coke at the end of the race. And so I took a big sip and then I threw it up everywhere. It's great.
Thank you for this. I'm going to give it back in 5 minutes.
Yes.
And what are your current running kicks? Or in this case, what did you run Rabbit Run in?
I've been running in the La Sportiva Caracal a lot. I really like them. Yeah, I have very narrow feet and I've learned that I need very narrow shoes.
I have not thrown those into this rotation yet, but you were not the first person to mention those as being a really interesting, fun shoe to run in.
Yeah.
Regardless, you got them correct.
passed.
Congrats.
Yay!
You did it. You now have a second law degree. That's all it took. I think that's going to wrap up our main show with Amelia Boone. We will ask some residual questions and stuff like that in our after show. But again, Amelia, just congratulations on such an incredible race. It is your journey continues to inspire so many people, and your honesty and your forthcoming with just everything that you go through and deal with on a regular basis is refreshing and so helpful for so many people. You are truly an inspiration and a role model for so many, and we appreciate you and appreciate the time that you took tonight to join us. I do want to give you an opportunity to mention where people can follow you and where people can find out more information about like what's next for you and all that good stuff. So Amelia, take it away. Where can people find you?
I mean, mainly Instagram. So ARBoone11. There you'll find me talking about running as well as foster dogs and my ovaries. And other weird things.
This is why we like Amelia so much is there's no topic that's off topic, and that's what's so great. Again, our guest tonight, Amelia Boone, fresh off of the Run Rabbit Run 100 finish, her first sanctioned 100-mile finish, but by no means her first ultra or distance of 100 miles or more. She's done so much in this sport, and we're so thankful to have her on the show and continue to inspire and, again, be a great role model for so many. We are going to move into our after show. Our after show is for our Patreon GR crew. If you would like to join us, all you got to do is go to patreon.com/thegingerrunner. All tiers have access to our after shows from Ginger Runner Live, so we'd love to have you and join the amazing community. But before we do, we'd like to recognize members of this community who go above and beyond. We call it our GR crew member of the week. Kim, who is this week's GR crew member?
So this week's GR crew member of the week, I pulled this name a couple weeks ago, actually, but because of GRGR, we were doing other things. So this week's crew member of the week is Monica Fred. And Monica, so this is now a couple weeks old, but a couple weeks ago, Monica ran the Mama Bear 50 miler. Wow. And she says, what a fun adventure, crazy weather, a bit of mud skiing, then gorgeous weather. The course was right up my alley, very small turnout, but the volunteers and other runners I met were so nice. I was the only woman running this year, so I'm the first and last female.
Wow.
I was most proud that my strongest mile were very late in the race. I just felt like I could fly. Now I just have to figure out what to do with the trophy. Not a problem I expected to have. So if you're on our Discord server, Monica posted a photo of the trophy and it's beautiful and big.
Amazing.
So congratulations, Monica. Very, very cool.
It's such a cool story. And Monica, you are an amazing member of the community. We appreciate you so much. Congrats on being our crew member of the week. We're going to move right into our after show with Amelia. Thank you so much, everybody. We will see you next week for more Ginger Runner Live. I also have the Summer Short Showdown video dropping. That should be a lot of fun. We filmed some.
It's very interesting to film shorts on Ethan all day today. And before we go into the after show, I do want to say we are still looking for volunteers for Tiger Claw October 2nd. If you want to volunteer, runtigerclaw.com, and there's a volunteer form to fill out.
Yeah, we would love to have you come out and support some of our runners. It's going to be a lot of fun. 2 weeks.
A lot of fun racers out there and a lot of great people volunteering.
Yeah, some big names. We're not going to drop names. That's not what we do. They kind of want to. But yeah, go to runtigerclaw.com if you would like to join us, volunteer, or race either way. Thank you so much, everyone. We'll see you next week, or we'll see you in the after show. Get out there, train hard, race harder, party hardest. See you guys.
Bye.
Bye.